Hello out there. Today, I'd like to talk about a review for Marvel's Eternals that really grinds my gears. I saw Eternals last weekend, and although it had some pretty large story and structure issues that I'd like to get into in a future video, I also recognized that it was an attempt by Marvel and director Chloe Zhao to do something very unique to the MCU. That should be applauded, even if I personally have some issues regarding the movie's execution. But Eternals, now having cemented itself as the first truly bad Marvel movie, is facing a lot of criticism, despite its commercial success. While a lot of this criticism has focused, appropriately, on issues with story pacing, character development, and a clunky third act, some criticism is, in my opinion, completely unfounded or just plain weird. For instance, an article I recently saw says that Eternals proves the MCU formula is broken no matter who directs. This is, to put it kindly, revisionist history. The previous 20+ films in the MCU have proven that the MCU's formula not only isn't broken, but is how to tell a compelling story. In the case of Eternals, though, the formula wasn't followed, or at least, it wasn't followed as effectively as it has been in the past, according to this article from Screen Rant. The MCU storytelling has been more or less defined by the combination of introducing the heroes and their evil counterparts in the first half and racing against time to team up and save the world. In the latter, with witty one-liners, pop culture references, and humorous quips. This has been a focal point of discussion within the industry, especially since veteran filmmakers have explicitly expressed their disapproval towards it. First of all, this is not a formula that is somehow unique to Marvel, but is in fact a formula that is the foundation for every well-crafted story ever written. The arc of introducing a flawed protagonist, give them some sort of inciting incident or call to action, put them in conflict with an antagonist who challenges their flaws, have them battle, and end in a state of equilibrium isn't an MCU conceit. And, also, the issue with Eternals really doesn't have anything to do with the one-liners, pop culture references, and humorous quips. If anything, a big issue I had with Eternals is that the characters seemed detached and disinterested from humanity for a lot of the movie. Even though, that's kind of to be expected as they're immortal gods, we didn't ever get to know any of these characters as people. We're told that they love humanity, but we don't ever really get to understand why some of them love us and the Earth so much. Other than Phastos and for 2 seconds Cersei, we never get to see them form relationships with actual humans and how that affects them. Hell, I understand why the Eternals would be disappointed in humans more than why they would love us. That's one of the biggest flaws with the Eternals, is that we don't get to understand the characters' desires, goals, weaknesses, and motivations. This is a staple of the MCU formula because it is a staple of good storytelling. A story is only as compelling as its character, and a character is only as interesting as the flaws, quirks, desires, and skills we, the audience, learn about them. When you don't know enough about a movie's characters, it simply becomes harder to engage and overlook the sort of silly stuff that you'd otherwise take for granted. Yes, the third act had a lot of things happen that didn't make sense. Sprite is in love with Icarus all of a sudden, Kinko just pieces out, Thena fights the evolving deviant who is utterly useless to the plot of the movie, like seriously just take him out altogether. But the root cause of all these plot issues is that we, the audience, don't fully understand these characters and their motivations. To say that these issues are typical of Marvel movies is, frankly, incorrect. Shang-Chi followed the basic MCU structure and it was one of the best movies of the year. That's because the movie took the time to set up who Shang is as a character, show us the weaknesses he'll have to overcome, and then let the obstacles he overcomes mold him into a more rounded person. If you want to criticize the Eternals for being full of plot holes, be my guest. If you want to say the characters weren't fully fleshed out, the pacing wasn't good, or the final battle was a bit too generic, I understand those arguments. But please, spare me this crap that the Eternals' failure is a sign that Marvel's formula is not working. The MCU formula has worked and will continue to work, they just need to keep following it and make sure the execution works.